It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict. Today we're talking the restructuring of the Sedona Oak Creek Unified School District, and here is Superintendent David Likens. He was in a couple weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago now, to talk about kind of the issues that the district was facing, some financial challenges stemming from a decline in enrollment, some lack of funding really from the government, the state level. And they had a big meeting on March 22nd, the board and the community was involved in this whole process, and they ended up voting. They had a couple options, which Mr. Likens will get into here. But first off, I just want to welcome him in and thank him. Thank you for being here again for the second time to talk about this.
No problem, Kyle. Thank you. As I had mentioned in our previous segment, any opportunity that I obtain to talk about public education, it's exciting for me. So thanks for having me this morning.
Of course, I know this is a big issue that a lot of people, anytime you talk about changes, especially district-wide, whatever school district it is, wherever it is, the community is involved in that, and I'm sure you guys get feedback, and we did stories on it on multiple newscasts talking about those community meetings, the public meetings, the everything that was going on. So at the March 22nd meeting, one big thing I think that a lot of people were talking about was they're worried that a school is going to be closed to deal with these financial challenges. But at the March 22nd meeting, you guys, the board, voted to keep all schools open, and that hopefully to kind of deal with the financial challenges. So first off, can you kind of explain those financial challenges that the district is facing and maybe just break it down a little bit for people?
Yes, absolutely. In the state of Arizona, right now we're going through what's called legislation has changed our funding, and so it's being referred to as current year funding. In the past, schools operated off of the 100-day count from the previous year. So for example, we know how many kids that we had this school year up through the 100-day count. So then, therefore, we could know how much money we had and then budget for the upcoming school year and staff it accordingly based on what our numbers and our financial dollars would be. With legislation now being decided to go to current year funding, we will not know, nor will any school district know their budget capacity for next year until school gets in session and it begins. So you're planning without knowing how much funding you're going to have to operate your school system. And if you have declining enrollment, then your funding that you have is not based on what you know you have. It could decline more, and then you don't know that until you get in. So that's a complicating factor that 64% of all districts in the state of Arizona are faced with. And so it's a funding concern. On top of that, ours was complicated more because we had a decline in enrollment overall. And then the third component that was a huge variable for us, was at the Sedona Red Rock High School. I'd educated our board in the preceding year that we had 4 straight years of a small cohort going into the high school. For example, we would graduate 150 seniors, but we only have 90 freshmen come in the next year. And for 4 straight years, that pattern was going to happen. And at the high school level, each school district obtains more funding per student for a high school age student. It's called weighting factor. They get extra weight because it costs more to educate a high school student. You have to have foreign language, lab equipment's more expensive, you're required to have yearbooks and publishing and competitions and AIA, contributions for sports and travels and clubs, and you obtain more money. So when you have less students at that level, your overall budget in the unified school district gets small. And for 4 straight years, we knew that small cohort group was going to be challenging, because how do you deliver all the courses that your kids need when the numbers are shrinking due to our cohorts in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that were small. So the combination of current year funding, an overall decline that's happened for 10 straight years slowly, and then a small cohort for 4 years coming through Red Rock High School was the 3 variables that contributed to what I refer to as the current reality of our school district, which we need to address now as a community. And the first step was to educate the entire community on the significance of those 3 variables hitting all at one time in our district.
Okay, and I know the district came up with several models of how to kind of move things around in the districts to help deal with those issues. And you know, you never want to see a school closed, but that was one of the options here that I think got really the most attention out of all the models. But can you maybe quickly run through the models that the district came up with of restructuring?
Absolutely. We came up with various models as we wanted to be comprehensive in our efforts. And anytime you have to be comprehensive, you have to look at multiple options. And one of those options, if you're going to do your due diligence from a governing board standpoint, and from my office of superintendency, all options includes looking at least what it would look like if you closed at least a school. That was never the priority. Actually, in every public meeting I stood up in, I said I do not favor closing a school and don't support that. We have all these other options to look at first. And so one of the options we looked at initially was how not to duplicate programs. And so we had 2 K-8 schools that mirrored each other. And so one model was how maybe we make one of them a K-4, one of them a 5-8 middle school types, and then one a 9-12. That model would have removed duplication of programs and helped us streamline some efficiency. But what it didn't do was tackle the issue of the small cohort that's coming through the high school, because it didn't help us deliver those programs in a creative way that we need to do, at least for these next 4 years. And so that model, as we looked at it more closely, helped but didn't solve the issue. And so the model that resonated to do that boiled down to the final 2 options, and there were others, but one was to make the schools 2 schools that were K-8 and make them K-6, and then move the 7th and 8th grade students to the campus at Sedona Red Rock High School, which can easily accommodate those students, and make a comprehensive 7 through 12 junior, senior high school, and that opportunity would solve those problems with the small cohort, because you could keep all your valuable programs and share some of those with the junior high students on the same campus and become more efficient. And on top of that, put your 7th and 8th graders in a more of a vital experience that prepares them for high school. So they're basically thinking about college and career readiness now in the 7th grade as opposed to the 9th grade. And Red Rock High School, being the only A high school in Yavapai County in northern Arizona, which it's been for 9 straight years, is a great atmosphere to do that. And so that was why that model was high on the list. And the other model that made it second was just to have one K-6 school and consolidate all the district kids into one location, and then have the same model 7 through 12 at the high school, because that tackled both ends of the issue. And so those were the 2 that ended up resonating as the final choices. But once again, closing a school is always the last option from my standpoint and from our governing board, as well as the community.
And real quick before we take a break, we have to take a break here shortly, but can you talk about what the obligation the district had whenever you're closing a school, with just informing the public? Because I think people got word that that was an option, and really they kind of were afraid that it was going to be their school. Can you talk about what the district's obligation in that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kyle. There's a statutory obligation that if the school is being considered to be closed, that the statutory requirement is such that the school board has to take an action item in a public meeting that is put as an action item to consider this as an option. Within 10 days of that, you have to have a special meeting, which we did on March 10th, that over 500 people, close to 500 people attended. With that, I had to then pen a letter from behalf of the governing board, coming from me, to every parent in our district that would be affected by it, which was every parent, to notice them that we were going to have this special meeting on March 10th, and personally invite them to come in to speak for and or against the proposed model. Although it was just one of the choices, that one choice is the only one that required the statutory obligation to hold a special meeting for it, and for me to send a letter personally to every parent inviting them in. The other options has no statutory requirement to do that. And so that requirement that the legislation indicates that we must do really raised the level of consciousness and concern because of that letter that came in. And that's, quite honestly, Kyle, why the legislation demands that you do that. And so, it was a necessary part of the potential equation. It was not one that anyone enjoyed, but it's required legislatively to do so.
And I imagine that's just to keep everyone informed on the possibility there. So we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're sitting down with Superintendent of the Oak Creek Unified School District, David Likens. When we come back, we will talk about what the board decided on how to restructure the district. We'll talk about that and kind of the decision at that March 22nd meeting coming up in a couple minutes. We'll see you soon.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Superintendent of the Oak Creek Unified School District, David Likens. We're talking about the restructuring of the district, and before we took a break, Mr. Likens kind of went through some of the financial challenges that the district has, as well as other reasons really for coming up with models, different types of models to restructure the district and make sure everything runs a little bit more efficiently. And so for more information on this, we should give you some phone numbers and websites. A good phone number for the district is 928-204-6800. You can also go online to sedona.k12.az.us for more information on there. I know you guys have some documents on there as well about this issue. So at the March 22nd meeting, we mentioned the board voted to keep all schools open. There was some talk about maybe closing Big Park Community School as well as other models that you hit on before the break, but all the schools are staying open. So what did the board decide at the March 22nd meeting?
On the March 22nd meeting, we held it a little bit later in the day so more people could come. We had an evening meeting. We held it at the Sedona Performing Arts Center. It was a well-attended meeting. At that meeting, there was a little over 200 people that had attended. The governing board voted 5 votes to 0 to keep all schools in our district open. In other words, not to close any school, whether it's Big Park School or others. And then our governing board, the second part of that motion was to transplant the 7th and 8th grade students onto the campus at Sedona Red Rock High School to create a new Sedona Red Rock Junior Senior High School on the campus at Red Rock High School. And that vote passed 4 votes to 1 on moving the 7th and 8th graders to the high school. And so that's what we've started the merger for. We've already started the process for that. It's in the beginning stages of starting to market and educate our community on it. The board took action this past Tuesday night, April the 5th, on the contracts of all employees and all administrators and put them in those assignments based on the restructuring model. And so now those people are going to work in those positions, and our plan is starting to be implemented as we continue to collaborate with our community.
So now, what are some of the benefits for these 7th and 8th graders, as you mentioned, going to the high school campus and creating the junior senior high school? What are the benefits for those students?
Well, those are many, and I'm very excited about it, as I think most of our community is, and I believe in the near future our entire community will realize the benefit of this particular restructure. Our 7th and 8th graders right now are split between 2 campuses. On our Big Park Community School, there's about 40 kids that are in the 7th and 8th grade, and so my question has always been, how meaningful of a rich and robust program are you having for 40 kids to be on the back end of an elementary school when that age group is so social and those social skills are being developed? And if you're having them in this small group of 40, is that really the social preparation that they need? But that was the model that we had. And the other campus, we have about 65 to 70 kids, and so total it's about 120 kids. And so now that we put those kids onto one campus, we have a more comprehensive program for our students. But on top of that, the facility that is at Sedona Red Rock High School is designed to have a separate feel to it. We have 2 full gymnasiums. One will be the junior high gymnasium, so they'll have their own area for that. What they're going to be able to take advantage of now is highly qualified teachers in the areas of photography, performing arts in a $12 million performing arts building, art, music, digital media, as well as keyboarding, and all these other activities. On top of that, the transition for college and career readiness, in my mind, starts in 7th grade now as opposed to 9th grade. It's more of a learning community at the high school from the standpoint of what happens now matters. When I was the high school principal at Red Rock High for many years, I would tell incoming freshmen, what you do now becomes permanent. Your high school transcripts, whether you go to the university or not, the first thing you do when you fill out a job application is your name, your date of birth, your social security number, and where you went to high school. And did you graduate, and what year? That is a permanent piece of your history and your future. So that now can begin that level of awareness, that level of the importance of post-secondary success, which is what we're doing in a K-12 unified school district. Now that emphasis can be moved to the 7th grade, and it really allows those kids to know the campus, know some of the teachers, be familiar with the coaches and the club sponsors, and hit the ground running in the 9th grade with a 2-year head start at an already amazing high school. And so I'm really excited about it. I think it's a growth model. We're already receiving phone calls from other surrounding families and other schools that are inquiring and want to know more about the opportunities. And with open enrollment in the state of Arizona, as long as they can provide their transportation, there'll be room for them to explore that as an option. And so I believe it will be something that can be marketed, which is one of the things that the community thought that we should be able to do with whatever models of the restructure that we came out with. And so that's the first one that is really going to be able to not only prepare the students that we have currently already in a better situation and a more robust experience in the junior high level than we've ever been able to create for our students. They're also going to be able to have access to foreign language, which they've never had in the junior high models we had before. The accelerated kids are on the campus. They can take an algebra or intermediate algebra high school and get high school credit when they're in the 7th or 8th grade because they're on the campus. And so those are things we weren't ever able to do for our kids in the 23 years that we've had a school district. Those things are positive. And so as the unshakable optimist that I am concentrating on shining the light on those positive things as we continue to work on other areas of our district.
Now, will this go into effect next year? This
starts in the school year 16-17. Okay. And so July 1st, it officially would be open. We're going to do some back to school nights and for orientation to have kids and parents come over in April and tour the school. We're planning on having a pre-summer academy for 7th and 8th grade students to come to Red Rock High to familiarize themselves with the campus, take some enrichment programs, their families to get comfortable comfortable with the new buildings and the new surroundings, and so that once again, when August 3rd comes and school begins, those students are acclimated and excited. And right now, I think kids are excited about it. They're apprehensive because, you know, it's the high school, and so, but it's not going to be the high school any longer. It's going to be the junior, senior high school, and so I'm real excited about it, Kyle. And I think it's going to not only just bear fruit, but it's going to bear fruit from the standpoint that our kids are going to be more successful post-secondary due to this transition and this restructure.
Great. Okay, well, we're going to take a second break. We're talking the restructuring of the Sedona Oak Creek Unified School District with Superintendent David Likens. For more information, you can call 928-204-6800, 204-6800. This is Countywide. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with the superintendent of the Oak Creek Unified School District, David Likens, talking the restructuring and the decision that the board made on restructuring that district. Real quick, we only have about a minute left in the program, but what do you see in the future for the K-12 schools in the district?
In our district,
K through 6.
In our 2 K-6 schools, Kyle, for the academic school years of 17-18, which is a year away, some of the work that we're beginning to put into place now in a collaborative model with community input and the formation of some subcommittees is to how do we look at potentially having signature programs in those K-6 schools? Could it be a STEM model or a STEAM model, which is science, technology, engineering with arts infused along with the math to make a STEAM model? Is there an IB component at a school that could be advantageous for our students or be attractive for other area students? And so those are the areas that we're going to be researching, and as a bilingual school, an opportunity for us to have a creative program that enriches our own students, but may also be something that is interesting for other area students. And so we're concentrating on our kids, but with open enrollment, we want to be able to create not just opportunities for our kids, but all kids, because we have that shared responsibility of the entire Verde Valley working for our kids. And so I'm excited about the future. My energy goes into preparation for our kids, for their future, because that really is the future of our country, is what we're putting in educationally to our students in current times. And so a lot of work ahead, but an exciting time, and I'm excited to go on that journey.
Yeah, great. Well, now decisions made on what's going to happen next year, and you guys can move forward with that and a lot of moving parts. So I want to thank you for coming in and talking about this again.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
And here we go. So that's going to do it for today's Countywide. Another phone number real quick, 928-204-6800. The website for the Sedona Oak Creek Unified School District, sedona.k12.az.us. That's going to do it for today's Countywide. We'll see you next time.